If you want to understand what's really going on in the Middle East, you need to look at the forces that are at play behind the scenes. One of the ways of looking at the Middle East is to think of it as a giant chessboard where pieces are constantly maneuvering around. So, who are the losers in all of this and who are the winners? Iran has a huge interest in what's going on in the Arab parts of the Middle East. Iran, of course, is not an Arab country, but it's got a very close ally in Lebanon in the form of Hezbollah, and also in the Syrian government of President Bashar al-Assad. Iran came to his aid and helped reverse the imminent defeat that he could well have suffered at the hands of the rebels. A lot of the ground that the rebels had taken, they were then beaten back out of by Russian airstrikes, backed by military manpower on the ground, Hezbollah and other Shia forces, often under Iranian command, but working in concert with the Syrians. I think it's too early to say that Syria's President Bashar al-Assad is a winner. He hasn't lost. Iran now has a huge hand in the business, the internal politics and the security apparatuses of Iraq, Syria and Lebanon. And that has essentially given it a corridor of influence all the way from the Afghan border in the east to the Mediterranean in the west. And that's something that is rattling Saudi Arabia and the Sunni Arab Gulf states to the south. So in all these power struggles and conflicts that are going on in the Middle East, who's losing out? Well, strategically, the Saudis. They may not want to admit it, but they have not come out well out of this big power struggle with Iran. The proxy militias that they have supported in Syria have not done well. They're on the back foot. ISIS, so-called Islamic State, is also a loser. It's lost its caliphate. They made a strategic mistake in 2014 by overreaching themselves. One of the really unfair things about big powers in the Middle East, whether they're Western powers or whether they are regional superpowers like Iran and Saudi Arabia, fighting these proxy wars, is that the losers are not those states themselves, it's the people caught up in the middle. And the most glaring example of this is Yemen. Iran's role in Yemen is limited, but they have been supplying weapons, they have been supplying ideological, doctrinal education to the rebels there, and the Saudi-led coalition has responded with a devastating air campaign plus a blockade of ports. And so it's the Yemeni people who are suffering there. In Syria, as other countries get involved, Turkey, Iran, Russia, the US, in Syria, it's the local people who've suffered. That country has been torn apart. And Iraq, likewise, it's always the civilians who suffer.